There are two challenges with HDMI that I'm going to address today. And this product here from Ruipro solves both of them. So the first challenge that we sometimes encounter with HDMI is distance. If you try to run an HDMI cord over 25 feet, the cord is longer than 25 feet, then you get signal degradation, and sometimes it just doesn't work at all. Also, if you're using 2.1 HDMI, sometimes the limit caps out at like 10 feet, right? So what is the alternative? If you can't, if you have to run an HDMI cable a distance longer than that, what's the solution? Well, the solution is fiber optic. So typical HDMI cables use copper inside of them. But if you use fiber optic, then they can go much further because fiber is just better. We all know that, right? So this product from Ruipro is a fiber optic cable. And so this particular cable is 15 meters long, 45 feet roughly. And I'll be testing it today to see if it works. Now, the second problem that we encounter with HDMI cables, if they become obsolete, outdated, and we have to replace them. Now, this typically isn't a huge problem if you're using an old, outdated HDMI cable and you need to upgrade it. You just simply unplug the old one, plug in the new one, and away you go. But what if you have run your HDMI cable through your walls and you need to replace that cable? Good luck. What we typically do, and this is what I've done here in my theater, is when I was building my theater, I installed a conduit, a tube that runs through the ceiling and through the walls over to my processor. It goes from my projector to my processor. And so if I ever need to replace that cable, that HDMI cable that's run through that conduit, I have a pull string and I can just pull the HDMI cable out, the old one, and then pull a new one through. But what if you don't have conduit or you just don't want to go to the trouble of that? This product right here solves that problem. And what it does is it has detachable ends. So they have disconnected the transmission method, which is the fiber optic, and the electronics, which are the HDMI ends that plug into your processor or AVR and into your projector. And they've decoupled those and made it so that you can keep the fiber optic in the walls or wherever you have it, but just replace the HDMI ends that go on the end. And so if you ever need to replace them because they break, they get damaged, or you want to upgrade them, you just simply buy just the end replacements, unplug them from the fiber optic, plug it back in, and away you go. So this is a pretty cool product, and I am excited to try it out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run this cable from my closet where I have all my equipment, where my processor is. I'm just going to run it temporarily across the floor because I'm not going to do the whole thing through the walls because this is just for testing purposes. I'm going to just run it across the floor and up to my projector back here and just see how it works and check it out. So let's get to it. So this cable that Ruipro sent me is an 8K capable cable, and it will handle 48 gigabits per second. And so this is a very capable, very current, it's a 2.1B standard HDMI cable. And as I mentioned previously, it's got the detachable ends. And so what I am going to do is I am going to connect up this cable to my Anthem AVM70 processor on the one end, and then on the other end, I'm going to connect it up to my Epson 6050 UB projector. Now, these ends on this fiber, this is a standard connector. This is what very common, a very common connector that you will see on the ends of fiber optic cables. If you've ever worked in like data centers or anything like that, you'll see connectors that are very, this is very consistent with that. Now, these ends, the HDMI ends that we have here, they are specific to which device they plug into. So the one end is labeled source, and then the other end is labeled display. So they look identical, but they are in fact unique. So the one that is labeled source, this is the one that I will plug into the back of the Anthem AVM70. And the one that's labeled display will go into the projector. It should be pretty intuitive for anybody who is, has any experience connecting cables. So, and the fiber, it doesn't matter which end goes where, because they're identical on both ends. So what I'm going to do is remove this plastic. It's kind of like a sticker that goes on the end here to hold the cover in place. And they have that on both sides here. Okay. So once we've got, and hopefully you'll be able to see this here, once we've got the covers removed on both sides, then you just insert it in, and it only goes in one way, like so, and snaps right in. And there you go. That's all there is to it. So this is the source side. So I'm not going to connect up the HDMI just yet. I'm going to string out the cable. I'll get this plugged in to the Anthem AVM70, string out the cable, and go up to the projector. And once I get up to the projector, then I will attach the other end. So get this plugged in, and we'll go to the next step. So I've already mentioned one of the advantages of a fiber optic HDMI cable, and that being the significantly longer distances that you can transmit the signal and connect devices. But another advantage of a fiber optic HDMI cable is that because it's fiber optic, it's just light that's traveling through the cable. And so there is zero interference. It doesn't cause any interference to any other devices, and it's not susceptible to any interference from other devices. So it doesn't give interference, and it doesn't receive interference, which is great because the back of our racks is usually just completely covered up with cables, and so the less interference that we can cause or create, the better. The other nice thing, and I'm just noticing this now as I'm stringing this cable, is it's very light and it's very flexible. So if you're pulling this through some conduit, it's just going to be very it's very workable. Obviously, with fiber, you don't want to kink it. You don't want to kink it too tight. You want to keep it out. But yeah, it's very workable. It's very light. It's just a nice cable to work with. So I'm going to attach this HDMI end, the display HDMI end, onto the end of the cable here. Now the display end has something unique, and that is it actually requires power. Now, a typical HDMI cable, because it's copper inside of the cable, it transmits the signal, it transmits the data, but it also transmits power to the other end of the HDMI cable. But because we're using fiber here, there's no ability to transmit power. So we have to independently power this HDMI end. And the solution that Ruipro has come up with is that they have a USB cable. So I will attach this USB cable to the USB port in my projector and then connect up the other end to the HDMI port. And my hope is that this solution will work. If my projector is not able to supply power to this HDMI in, then I'll probably have to get a like a USB charger brick, plug that in up here, and then connect the cable here. But hopefully the projector does the job. All right, I've got the fiber end and the HDMI end here, removing the covers, and now I will clip it into place. Oh, got a stray little piece of fuzz. Definitely want to remove that because with fiber, it's very susceptible to any kind of contamination. So I will clip this in, see how it goes. Again, it only goes one way because it has a little notch on one side. So you have to line up the notch on the fiber end with the notch on the HDMI end, and then clips in. Okay, so now I will also connect up this USB cable, and it just has a small micro USB end on this end that goes into the HDMI end. There we go. That end is in there. And then the USB end will plug in right here, but I'll wait to plug that in until after I get this in. So I'll remove the existing HDMI cable, and then I will put this guy, the new cable, in here. Okay, I've got the HDMI in there. Now I'm going to plug in the USB. That's in. Okay, now we fire everything up and see if it works. Okay, we got that up and running. Now we're going to turn on the projector. And it works. Look at that. It works. So this cable that I just have temporarily, obviously, this is just not permanent. This is just for this video. I've got it strung along the ground, but it's working. So this Ruipro cable works great. So it's currently, the one I'm using is a 45-foot cable. I think they sell a slightly shorter one on Amazon. I'll link to it in the description box, and it sells for, I think, $109. So you can check that out. So the cable works. It works great. The question that I had was whether this USB port on the projector would indeed power the HDMI end, and it does. So that saves me from, having an extra USB block or anything like that. So this cable works great. I'm really happy with it. So now I'm going to do something kind of special for everybody who's made it to the end of this video. I have 2 of these Ruipro HDMI cables, and I am going to give both of them away to you, 2 of you, the viewers. And so the way it works is just comment down below, just say how you could make use of one of these cables, how you would be able to use it in your particular setup, whether it be a home theater like me, or, maybe you have like a conference room, or, so who knows? There's any number of ways that this setup could be used. And then I'll do a random drawing, and then I'll ship it to you, and you don't have to pay for shipping or anything. So if you get a message saying that you need to pay for shipping, don't believe it. I'll cover the shipping. Okay, just a couple quick things. First of all, for legal reasons, this giveaway is not sponsored by YouTube in any way. This is purely from me. And second of all, this is limited to people in the continental United States. I can only ship here in the US. So unfortunately, if you're outside of the US, you won't be able to enter. You can still comment, but I won't be able to send cables to you. Like I say, I have 2 of these cables. So one of them is unopened, but this one has been opened. So one of you will get a brand new unopened cable, but then somebody else will get this cable that I've used, but I'll package it up really nicely so it'll be well protected. So anyways, thanks for watching.